The 20th century brought with it extraordinary technical progress. The development of science has reached such heights that it seems there should not be a single dark spot left in history. However, there are many unsolved mysteries that excite and drive crazy even the greatest minds. The Mary Celeste is perhaps the most famous sea mystery. It is the second most popular ship after the Flying Dutchman. However, unlike the latter, the Mary Celeste actually exists. The mystical story of this brigantine is absolutely real and therefore much more frightening. In early November 1872, the ship left the harbor in New York and headed for the shores of Genoa. On board were 8 sailors and the captain with his wife and daughter. Exactly a month later, it was discovered drifting and abandoned. It was found by sailors from the British ship De Gratia, which in Latin means grace of God. The sails of the brigantine were raised. There were neither living nor dead on board. No signs of distress, wreck, or struggle were found. There was no lifeboat. But why would the crew and passengers need to abandon ship for no apparent reason? The situation is simply beyond human comprehension. It is human nature to invent things that are not clear. This is what happened this time. People said that the ship was plagued by misfortune from the very beginning. It was originally called the Amazon, but after a series of misfortunes, including the sudden illness and death of its first captain and a collision with another ship in the English Channel, it was given a new name. As can be seen from its sad end, it did not help the ship. No one could explain why it was necessary to abandon the safe ship. There were even versions that a sea monster was involved. There is no scientific explanation for the circumstances of what happened to the Mary Celeste. Most people know about the Tunguska explosion that occurred in 1908 as a result of the fall of a meteorite. The fireball had a diameter of almost 100 meters. This grandiose catastrophe destroyed about 2,000 square kilometers of taiga and felled about 80 million trees in Siberia. This phenomenon has been classified by scientists as the largest collision between 2 astronomical objects, such as an asteroid and Earth, in the entire history of mankind. Sounds incredible. However, there is one small catch. For some reason, no one noticed. No trace of the huge extraterrestrial object has ever been found. It remains a mystery why the Tunguska meteorite did not leave a crater like this one found in Arizona. The lack of a crater is also puzzling. Experts suggest that the object fell from the sky and exploded over the forest before impact. Not an ideal solution to a truly unexpected problem. Scientists believe that it may not have been a meteorite, but a comet. After all, the latter are made of ice, not rock. This may serve as a possible explanation for the lack of traces of any alien rocks. We will probably never be able to clarify this issue. We are not destined to know the true reasons for what exactly caused the Tunguska catastrophe. Sleeping sickness, or African trypanosomiasis, is not the most well-known disease, but encephalitis lethargica strikes fear into the hearts of experts. This mysterious condition is rare these days, but between 1916 and 1930, there was an outbreak of this mysterious illness that spread from Europe. 500,000 people were affected. By all accounts, about a third of them died. So what is this strange phenomenon? At first, doctors did not have a single diagnosis. Later, they began to explain it by some strange psychoneurological behavior and an irresistible lethargic sleepiness that causes a state similar to a coma, as well as muscle rigidity. This muscle rigidity was a particularly alarming symptom, as even those who survived were severely affected. Although they were sometimes able to speak to a limited extent, move their eyes, and even laugh, they usually looked like living statues. These people could remain completely immobile for hours, days, weeks, or even years. In 1959, the bodies of 9 hikers were found in the ice of Dead Mountain in the northern Urals. A fitting name, given that the grisly discovery is known as the Dyatlov Pass incident, named after the group's leader, Igor Dyatlov. The death of the Dyatlov group is one of the largest and most mysterious tragedies in the history of tourism and extreme sports. There are about 100 versions of the incident, but none of them have been confirmed to this day. Only hypotheses about the strange and inexplicable death of 9 travelers. On the night of February 2nd, a snowstorm hit the group's overnight location. For some reason, the tent was cut through from the inside. There is no reasonable explanation for this. People ran out into the freezing cold without outerwear. The first couple of victims found were lying in their underwear in strange positions. Other members of the group had injuries of varying severity. Some had broken ribs and skulls, burnt hands. One young man had his tongue removed. The most frightening thing is that there were only traces of the group members at the site. No traces of the attacker or attackers. The most intriguing thing is that the tourists' clothes had a high level of radiation. What happened that fateful night? There are still no clear explanations. Scientists are leaning towards an avalanche or infrasound. The version of a sudden avalanche does not stand up to criticism. Infrasound seems much more plausible. This is a phenomenon when the wind interacts with the topography, creating a barely audible hum that can cause strong feelings of nausea, panic, fear, increased heart rate, and difficulty breathing. But it also does not explain many of the circumstances of the group's death. A lighthouse is just the right place for a creepy secret. People sometimes disappear, but when they disappear without a trace, leaving no traces, not even a hint of the reason, then a new legend and mystical story is born. The mysterious story of the similar disappearance of 3 lighthouse keepers from the Flannan Islands is exactly about this. This story has all the attributes of a mystical mystery: a stopped watch, an untouched dinner, and no traces of blood. In 1990, a helicopter crew landed on Island Moor, part of the Flannan Isles in Scotland. They were expecting to meet the experienced lighthouse keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. However, the men were nowhere to be found. It seemed as if they had simply vanished, leaving no trace. An overturned chair was found inside the lighthouse. The table was set, the food was untouched, and the clock was not ticking. The ship's log showed that the island had experienced a terrible storm, although there were no reports of this anywhere in the area. It was logically concluded that the watchmen were carried away by the sea while doing their job in difficult conditions. But is that true? There are other, more terrifying versions of unnatural forces. Some people claim that Eileen Moore has a certain negative aura that makes people behave inappropriately. The lack of concrete answers helps to build many mystical versions and gives rise to more questions than answers.